Hey guys, Trevor here from SpineWise, and today I want to talk to all of those who are trying to lose weight, who are sick of doing all the hard work. I want to talk to you about a simple way that you might be able to reduce your weight without actually having to change too much in your lifestyle. Before we get into that though, I'm going to give you a few key tips that you can take home with you and start doing today. But before we get into that, I want to explain to you exactly how weight distribution occurs, because most people aren't aware of the actual key mechanism that's involved in people gaining weight. And I understand there are a lot of different hormones and stress patterns and all this kind of stuff that contribute to it, but I'm just going to talk about the very simplest type of weight gain, which is for most people that around your waist. So if you start putting on weight, or you notice you put on weight between your midriff and your hips, and this is really who I'm talking about today. Alright, so before we get into it, let me explain to you about a simple hormone which is critical for you, a hormone called insulin, and exactly what it does in the human body. So one of the things that happens when we consume carbohydrate and we start taking it into our system is it travels down, gets into our bloodstream, and then from there, insulin, this is where insulin acts right here. Insulin has an action on it and it separates that carbohydrate into 3 usable forms. Okay, it depends really on what you're doing at the time as to how it breaks it down, but the general pattern is about 40% of it gets used immediately in the cell for energy right here, right now. About up to 10% gets put into what we call glycogen. So glycogen is actually like a stored form of carbohydrate that exists in your muscles, in your liver, and that gets used when you start exercising. You use anywhere from about 15 minutes to 45 minutes of exercise. That's when you're really burning up that glycogen. So it's putting it back in there if you've done some heavy exercise within the previous 72 hours. And the final lot, the 50% of it, then gets converted to this substance here called triglyceride. And you may have heard of triglyceride last time you had your full blood exam type processes or your health checkup with your GP. And when you look at cholesterol, it generally has cholesterol, high density lipids, or HDLs, which are good cholesterol, and LDLs. And then with it, often you'll see this thing called triglyceride. And the reason it's so important is that triglyceride is a very densely form of stored energy. And this is exactly what we want, because what we're trying to do is store energy so that next time, if we haven't eaten for 8 or 12 hours, we've got an energy source to utilize. Okay, so we're not dependent upon eating for energy. So the problem with that, and the reason why you get it as part of your bloods, is that one of the key things we know about triglyceride when those levels get high is it starts predisposing us to cardiovascular disease. Okay, so this is really, really important. So as the triglyceride levels go up higher and higher and higher, the risk of us developing cardiovascular disease gets higher and higher and higher. And this is one of the reasons why there is such a close link being formed now in the research. It's still early days, but being formed in the research linking high insulin levels with cardiovascular problems such as heart disease and strokes and things like this. And as I said before, the main reason we do that is so that we can store energy. So this is really important, because when we're talking about storing energy, we need to be able to liberate it and get it available to us when we need it if we haven't eaten for a period of time. And the easiest way, or one of the key ways that the body does that, is through liver processing. So the liver actually processes that fat that you've stored to actually generate the energy. I know I'm being a bit simplified, but to generate the energy to actually get it out. So it needs to be stored somewhere around the liver. So for most people, that insulin-based weight is usually stored around your midriff, so around your belly. That's where we tend to store our weight from insulin-related issues. So there's some key things that you can do straight away to start getting that insulin level down and reversing this process. Okay, so the first thing we can do is lower the glycemic index of the food you eat. Now the glycemic index is about how fast you digest carbohydrate. So something like straightforward glucose gets absorbed straight through the stomach wall into the bloodstream, so therefore it's there ready to go really quickly. So it has a very high GI value. Something like broccoli, for instance, has to be broken down. The sugars need to be pulled out of it. There's a lot of protein that needs to happen, so it takes a lot longer. So it has a lower GI value. So to keep it simple for now, the easiest way to understand it is the quicker the sugar gets to your bloodstream, the less chance the brain has to perform an adequate reaction. So therefore, the higher the insulin reaction is. So the lower the glycemic index, the lower the GI value, and this is why you might have heard some foods being low GI. The lower the GI value, the less impact it's going to have on your insulin levels. Second thing we can do is just generally across the board lower our carbohydrate intake. So the amount of carbohydrate, we can reduce that down as well. So if we reduce the amount of carbohydrate and we're lowering the glycemic index, the result of that is going to be quite significant reduction in insulin production in the body, which means lower production of triglycerides, which means less stored energy, which means we need to burn more energy throughout the day, which potentially means weight loss for us as well. So this is the second one, is to lower our carbohydrate intake. The third one is, it's a bit of a weird one, but if we increase our fat intake, especially our good healthy fats such as omega-3s, this can help nullify the effect of insulin in the system as well. It can also help reduce inflammation in the system, which is also another key component of all of that too. So our good quality omega-3s are things like we see commonly referred to in things like salmon and other forms of fish, and there are other good sources of omega-3s. I'm just giving you an example, even plant-based ones as well. So there are three things that we can do to start lowering our insulin levels down. So lower our GI values, lower our carbohydrate, increase our fats, especially our omega-3 fats, to help reduce this, balance this process out, and try and get this triglyceride production down. Anyway guys, if you have any questions on that process at all, please just post them up to me. Remember, when you're starting to play around with things like diet and stuff, it's always a good idea to make sure that it's safe for you to do so. Make sure you get checked before you go and start any kind of major changes in the lifestyle patterning. It's just one simple thing. If you're unsure whether you're okay or not, or whether it's safe for you to start doing it, just message me. I'm more than happy to help you out in any way, shape or form that we can. Anyway guys, that's it for me for now. Catch up with you in the next vid. Bye for now.